What's up, everybody? It's Jaryn from Velotric Bike and Board, and this is a brand new Velotric Go 1. By the time you're watching this video, the bike will be released. We got one pretty early, which we're excited about. It's a $1,799 utility e-bike is kind of the category that they're positioning in it, and it is already on sale for $1,499. I think a lot of these direct-to-consumer companies have overbought or oversupplied their bikes to the market, so they're basically discounting them right off the bat. The other thing is like Velotric and Aventon are kind of duking it out right now, much like Lamborghini and Ferrari do. And so they are competing both for quality, but also really at a price point. We're at a time right now in the market where price is everything. So I think Velotric is really trying to position themselves a little bit below the Aventon price point. The other thing about that price, there's also a direct-to-consumer aspect to it. So right now, for $14.99, you can order this bike off velotric.com, have it shipped directly to your house for free, no shipping charge in the continental United States, and then you have to build the bike. The next option you can do is called Velotool. So Velotric right now has two hubs, one in California, one in New Jersey. I believe how Velotool works is for $169, they'll ship this bike to one of their hubs. Somebody there that works for Velotric will then build the bike and deliver it to your house, kind of like a white glove service in the furniture industry. The third component of this, and probably the thing that's going to be built out most or become the most robust way to order a direct-to-consumer bike over the next few years as the bike industry changes, is you order this bike and you get it shipped to a dealer or a partnering bike shop. From there, that bike shop will generally charge a build fee, which is usually about 1 hour of labor, and you'll be able to pick the bike up built at your local bike shop and already start to create that relationship with your local bike shop. So that's probably the way that most of these companies will go in the future. A little bit about Velotric. So Velotric was started a couple years ago by Adam Zhang, who is from the Lime bike share fame, if you will. He was one of the co-founders of Lime Bikes. Basically went off on his own, started Velotric because I think he didn't want to be pigeonholed into the bike share model. He wanted to provide the customer base for a entry-level price point e-bike like this is much larger than the bike share companies. Or maybe it's just he did that and now he wanted to do this. Anyways, from what I hear, he's incredible at fundraising, can really raise capital. So he was able to do that, start this company. One other thing about Velotric that they did that's pretty cool and a lot different than a lot of these entry-level or budget e-bike companies is that he's bringing in a lot of talent in-house. He's got people from Specialized, Giant, I believe Cannondale, a couple of the other big e-bike companies. He brought them in-house to build their own bike. What a lot of cheaper e-bike companies do is basically, let's say I want to start an e-bike company. I create a website, www.jarynsebikeswarehouse.com, and then I call a company in China, or I make a connection with a supplier in China, and I say, sell me the XYZ Pro model e-bike and put my logo on it. There's no real design or R&D that goes into it. I buy a container ship of those bicycles, get them shipped here to America, and I sell them on my website. That's why a lot of this like $1,000-ish price point stuff looks exactly the same. Velotric's not doing that. They're designing their own bike from the ground up. It's got a lot of similarities to some other bikes in the category, but they're basically doing their own thing, which I think is cool. And those are the companies that we're going to see survive for the next 3 to 5 years. The ones that are just doing the buy the container and throw the logo on it are probably not going to be here for that long. Velotric's mission is to provide like elegant, stylish, affordable, comfortable, sleek, well-designed, well-thought out. It feels like a lot of bars to hit. I personally would like to see a company like Velotric have a little bit sharper of a knife, really know what you're going to do and try to hit it. Whereas to provide this like umbrella mission statement, I think sometimes makes it hard to know which direction the company is going to go in. To back up a little bit and talk about this bike, or really more so this category of bike, we at Velotric Bike and Board call them the ESUV. The industry is starting to call them like the utility e-bike. The customer, I feel pretty strongly, is supposed to be of the younger demographic, Gen Z, millennials, that kind of thing. I don't feel like a lot of these companies are doing a great job penetrating that market. And that's these companies in bike shops in general. Everyone is trying to piggyback on the success of like Rad Power or Super 76, Super 73, Super 72. I can't remember. Make these like fun little nimble around town bicycles. But I think really a lot of them are being bought by either like delivery drivers, package delivery guys in the city, or an older demographic that's riding the bike more for leisure. I don't feel, this is just an opinion, that these companies are penetrating that transportation market yet, although I do feel strongly that that is the end goal. Now, this is America. We love our cars. It's a major cultural shift, so it's going to take a lot of time, urban planning, bike paths, this, that, and the other thing to really see it come to fruition. I think we've got some momentum, but we haven't really seen the scale tip quite yet. Okay, so some quirks and features about the bicycle. Yes, I'm copying everything from Doug DeMuro because you know what? He's created this style of video in the car industry that's worked so well why not copy it and try to do our own thing in the bike industry? Quirks and features. Number one, Apple Find My iPhone integration. What does that mean? So basically you can pair your phone to this bicycle, sync it up with this bicycle, and you're able to track your bicycle wherever you leave it. Now that does come with a caveat. It's not a GPS sensor. What it is it allows the bicycle to basically ping off other cell phones in the area. So if you leave your bike in the middle of the backwoods in Maine and there's nobody around with an iPhone, you're not going to be able to find your bicycle. Contrary, if you leave your bike in the middle of New York City and you are trying to find your bicycle and there's 1 million people around with cell phones, or 12 million people or something like that, it's going to show you exactly where your bike is on that Find My iPhone app. Okay, motorcycle style stem. We're finally seeing this come to be the standard in the bike industry, which is for these e-bikes that are, 50 pounds plus. I think this bike weighs 65 pounds. The dual-sided, dual mount, I'm not exactly sure what it's called. The double mount, nope. The center mount kickstand is becoming the norm in the bike industry. A lot of bike manufacturers put this cheap little chintzy kickstand on the back of the bicycle and it breaks in a day. Kudos to Velotric for building a nice, sturdy metal kickstand that completely supports the bike, even if it's loaded up with cargo. Okay, UL certification. This is a new one, but very important. We've all heard the horror stories of e-bikes causing fires, especially like in New York City apartments. Super dangerous. This is coming from any company in China that can just basically put a battery and a motor on a bike. There's no sanctions, no certifications. It gets shipped here. Something catches on fire and we have a big problem. The UL certification is the new standard that the government is making these companies hit when it comes to safety, and more specifically with the batteries. Velotric is one of the early adopters with the UL certification. We just saw New York State pass a law where all e-bikes shipped into the city have to be UL certified. So any company that basically has that certification is, one, making a safer e-bike, but two, much better situated in the market for years to come. So this is a hub drive e-bike with a speed and cadence sensor, so no torque sensor. It has a 692 watt-hour battery, which is a pretty good battery capacity, and a 500 watt or 900 watt peak power hub drive motor. That is, I would say, middle to high end on the scale of power and battery capacity. So this bike should give you a good range. They're saying 45 miles with the throttle, 55 to 65 if you're pedaling it. It's so hard to give those numbers because it really depends on the weight on the bicycle, how steep hills you're climbing up and down, how much power you're providing versus taking from the bike, what power setting you have it on. But basically the easiest way to look at it is watt hours, and this bike comes with a pretty good amount of watt hours. Okay, so the cargo area on the bike. Right now, Velotric hasn't rolled out a ton of accessories for this. Basically, they've started with a front basket, a rear basket, foot pegs, and cushy back saddle. I feel like the cargo area on this bike, because it's not a long tail, Josie's, oh my God, Josie, let me get you a phone. The classes of the bike. This is technically a class 2 e-bike out of the box, 20 mile an hour with a throttle. They're offering basically like a jailbreak or an unlock feature, which means you can unlock this bicycle and it'll boost your maximum speed to 25 miles an hour. How do you do that? I'm not exactly sure. I'm sure it's done pretty easily on an app. That being said, it does basically void your class status. So it's not really a class 3 bike because it has a throttle. It's not really a class 2 bike because now it goes 25 miles an hour instead of 20 miles an hour. It has the capability, but we're gonna keep them how it is. Okay, so cargo area on the bike. This is the exciting part. 440 pound payload. So that's basically myself plus the payload. So I'm 175 pounds, which means I can put on another 200 plus pounds in the back of this bicycle. Do I wanna ride this bicycle with 200 pounds on it? Definitely not. Would it feel funny if there was 200 pounds sitting there, or 100 there and 100 there? Yes, but technically that's what it can support. Beyond that, Velotric has started to roll out some accessories with this bike. There's a front basket, a rear basket, a cushiony seat, and some foot pegs. We didn't order them yet. I don't exactly know how they are gonna work, but basically they're MIK adaptable, so it should be really easy to buy either Velotric or a different manufacturer's setup to bolt onto the back, which is gonna be pretty nice in the whole value of this utility e-bike. Fit and finish. This is like my favorite part when it comes. Are you kidding me? No. Take your bone. Okay, so fit and finish. This is my absolute favorite part of reviewing a bicycle. I feel like it is an opportunity for a manufacturer to shine or really not look too good. Velotric kind of is middle of the road for me on this one. Basically, first place where you can see how refined or how nice the fit and finish is on a bike is the cable setup. I built this thing. I am no bike mechanic by any means. I built it in under an hour, so I did a quick job. I could probably tighten this up a little bit. Yeah, it isn't perfect. There's some cables hanging around over here. I probably could have done a better job of winding them through this wiring harness here. That's never gonna go away no matter how much we try. The cable integration, I don't know, 5 out of 10. It's not exactly perfect, but it's light years better than some of these bikes you get off of Amazon. The next part about fit and finish I think is cool. So down here, we've got the controllers located in here. There's a little bit of like a radiator type thing which dissipates heat. That's really nice. I like the e-bikes that have the controllers located down in the bottom bracket here. If it's not a bottom bracket drive or mid-drive bike, it keeps things safe. That's the most important part of this. Beyond that, I think where Velotric really put a lot of time and effort into fit and finish is this cargo and rack setup. You know, they could have done their own system completely from the ground up. They didn't. They went above and beyond. They did the MIK system, which is really nice because that's probably going to be the industry standard moving forward. We've got, you know, some basic lights on the front and the rear. They're built well. The cable's not completely integrated. It comes kind of out of this frame here. It does match the frame line, which is nice, but it's not internal, which would be like the next level of fit and finish. The fenders were really easy to put on. They're beefy. Like everything about this bike is meant to be reliable. It's not the lightest weight bike on the market. It's not the fastest, you know, aerodynamic bike on the market, but the fit and finish is pretty well there. Computer is another place we look at for fit and finish. So, you know, I don't want to say they're designing their own computer. It looks like they're slapping their logo on one because it's very similar to the Aventon model. It's for sub $2,000, it's a really nice computer setup. It works fine. The buttons are tactile. They work well. This is the same exact throttle on the Specialized Globe, actually, so that's a pretty high-quality throttle in the grand scheme of things. You know, bell is decent. Grips are okay. Saddle is middle of the road. I think where Velotric's really shining when it comes to fit and finish is for this price point, I feel like it's class leading. There's other things in this bike that are really important that I think set it like one notch above the competition. All the bolts, all the fixtures are made out of metal. There's really no plastic on this bike, at least in the actual bike parts. The cockpit is well designed. The way that the way that the battery is integrated into the bicycle is really clean. They did a nice job with that, and the way that the locking mechanism and stuff works really well. These little features is you can start to feel how well a bike manufacturer puts into the fit and finish. Here's another one, you know, seat post adjustment. I would say this is like your standard, you know, fairly basic seat post adjustment. What they did think of is like the knob on this side is a bit more tactile than like an Allen key or something. They did a nice job when it comes to fit and finish. Even like the welds and stuff are clean. For a sub $2,000 e-bike, again, I'm gonna say that the fit and finish on this bike is of a pretty high quality. Okay, so the cockpit, really easy place to decide how an e-bike is doing. Is did they think this out? Is it ergonomic? Does it have enough space for everything? I feel like Velotric really nailed it on this, especially with this old school style BMX handlebar. So the handlebar comes up. There's a lot of points to mount things on this center console here. So if you wanted to put a front light, a bag, stuff like that on the front, there's space. If you look at this cockpit, we've got a throttle, a brake lever, a remote, computer, a light, a bell, another shifter, and another brake lever. So like there's 10 things on this cockpit already, but Velotric did a nice job integrating everything where it fits in there pretty well. Is it a Specialized tarmac with integrated cables? No. But is it a Chinese-made, Amazon-bought e-bike? No. It kind of sits in the middle. And again, for the price point, they did a really good job on it. Ride quality. So I took this thing around the parking lot a few times and I went just into town to do a bank run real quick. Ride quality in this thing is really strong in some points and then lacking in some other points. So where it's really strong is the handling. I can't say enough about a low travel front suspension matched to these 20x3 tires or wheels and tire combo. I think the low center of gravity with the small tire adds a massive amount of handling capabilities to these bicycles. The other thing is because they're heavier, the lower we can get the weight, the better the bike's gonna handle. It turns well, it's nimble, it stops quickly. A lot of the utility e-bikes in this category have the longer tail, which generally, in my opinion, don't handle that well. This thing is short, it's compact, it's nimble, it's quick, it turns really well. It doesn't have a major flop like some of the bikes in this category do. So they did a really nice job with the handling. Brakes, 4-piston with 180 mil rotors, basically do as much as possible to dissipate brake fade. You know, you can be coming down a hill with a lot of cargo and you know that your brakes are gonna be there when you need them. The last thing I'll say about ride performance, this is something that I know Velotric is working on, is that this is still a speed and cadence sensor bike. Depending on what setting you're in, the power delivery is basically on or off. They're not refined to the point yet where they have a torque sensor on this particular model, although I know on like the Gen 2 model, it will be a torque sensor bike. So that's a little bit where it lacks, because when you have a speed and cadence sensor electric bike, the power delivery can be a little bit jerkier, whereas the torque sensor is really a refined product. But again, sub $2,000 price point. Nobody is really doing a torque sensor bike yet, so these guys did a pretty nice job on this thing. The last thing I'll talk about in regards to ride quality, and this is almost more of a reliability thing, the chain and derailleur setup has been with us in the bike industry for 100 years. Not much has evolved. We're just starting to see the more premium price point bikes, you know, the 5,000 plus price point e-bikes, come with belt drive and an internal hub. And some of those internal hubs even do automatic shifting. I feel like that does a lot for the ride quality, because when you're putting 500 watts plus your own power through a derailleur setup and you're shifting gears, it can get really clunky and loud. This bike is not the smoothest shifting. That being said, yeah, I don't know. I think Velotric, they're pushing the agenda. I think they'll be early to the belt drive on the sub $2,000 price point e-bike, but we're not there yet. So that's why I have to ding them a little bit for ride quality. Okay, so again, a nod to Doug DeMiro. I want to start doing the Jaryn score, which is basically we're going to break it down into 2 categories and then 5 subcategories. So category number 1 is transportation. Category number 2 is performance. Within those categories, we're going to have smaller subcategories where I'm going to rate every bike on a scale from 1 to 10 and then give it a total overall category. A bike like this, definitely primed more for the transportation market, is going to do better there. Whereas a bike like a Santa Cruz Tallboy is more primed for the performance market, that's going to do better there. But what seems fair is to rate all these bikes in both categories so that we can get an accurate total score across the whole market. So now to the Jaryn score. Okay, in the transportation category, features, we've got a short tail, a potential for a front rack, a rear rack, a cargo situation. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Comfort, because this bike is pretty much one size fits all, it feels a little cramped to me at 5'10", 4 out of 10. Quality, I'm really putting this up against like the sub $2,500 e-bike category. I think the quality is pretty solid in that department. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Practicality, because this is a short tail utility e-bike and not a long tail e-bike, I feel like you can really get around town. It's nimble. You can keep it in the garage without taking up too much space. 6 out of 10. Value, right now where it's priced at $1,500, I feel like it is one of the strongest competitors in that market. 9 out of 10. For transportation, that gives us a total of 31 out of 50. Performance, styling. I think the bike is sharp. It's getting there in regards to refinement, but still has some way to go. I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Power delivery. Although the motor and the battery are strong and there's a lot of power there, I still think a torque sensor needs to be added to this bike to really go much higher in the score. I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Handling, again, because it's a short tail and the smaller tires, I feel like it handles really well for a heavier e-bike. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. Fun factor, this is where this bike really shines. Cruise around town, up and over curves, off a couple jumps, throw your friend on the back. I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. Cool factor, because it's not that unique. It's not gonna be that rare. This is really a mass market bike for the people. I'm giving it a 6 out of 10. For a total of 28 out of 50 in the performance category, with a total Jaryn score of 59 out of 100. To wrap things up, the Velotric Go 1 is a new addition to the utility e-bike category. I think Velotric is hungry as a young company. I think they want to do things a little bit differently, and I'm excited to see where they take the company. The bike in general is a great addition to that category. I think they did a really nice job in the sub $2,000 utility e-bike market. It's a quality bike. The fit and finish is pretty good. And the fun factor is high. So kudos to Velotric for making it a really awesome bicycle. And the UL certification takes it to the next level. Beyond that, if you like this kind of video, give us a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. And like I always say, round up for distance, round down for time. Thanks for watching. We can't play right now. We gotta do this video. Oh, sit. No, no. Nope. Head down, no. Ta-da! Good girl. Oh, girly, oh my God.